Well, Pacer Nation, things did not go good for Indiana tonight as they fall 121-91 in the Garden. The New York Knicks came out and punched Indiana in the mouth, and they win every single quarter in the scoring department. Pacers put up a good first 6-minute fight, but then New York just completely obliterated from there. So me and Facci are here to talk about this game, and I think I'll just start things off, Facci, by mostly saying this: Indiana needs to do what New York did after Game 4 and punt this film into the ocean and just get ready for Game 6.
Yeah, when you're talking about getting punched in the mouth, Indiana got punched in the mouth and they laid on that mat for the 10 count because they looked like they were just about rolling over and dying in this game. And I felt like it was all New York for the majority of the game. The crowd was rocking just like we feared. We knew Brunson would be better, and we knew, some of the calls would be a little bit inconsistent. I felt like this was just a poorly officiated game by both sides. It felt like the game dragged on due to how many reviews
Mhm.
they had to do, but that was not any excuse. The Pacers did not show up under the bright lights tonight. I think from top to bottom, they did not respond, and the Knicks kind of played with that sense of urgency that we felt that the Bucks would play with when they were facing elimination in that game 5, where it just really felt like, hey, you know what? They're going to respond, backs against the wall. The Knicks showed up tonight. The Pacers, I don't think they ever got off the bus.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think Game 6, to me, Facci, I'm not trying to jump too far ahead because we still have a couple of days till Game 6, which will be Friday night. I think Indiana is going to win Game 6. I'm just going to come out here and say it right
So do I.
now. You feel the same way?
I do feel the same way. Until someone has beaten us in our home arena, I feel confident. This team, it's night and day at home and on the road. They have one win on the road in the
Yeah,
playoffs.
Game
One.
2 against the Bucks.
They're undefeated in it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they're just a better home team. Like you just see a different style of play, and on the road, they've looked okay. I thought they looked okay in games 1 and games 2. Maybe
Yep.
not the second half of game 2, but game 1 definitely. This game just kind of fell apart, and I think that there's a lot of things we can talk about. But we brought up Jalen Brunson earlier, 44 points tonight. I think that's a playoff career high for him. 18 of 35 from the field, so he took 35 shots in this game. That's 26 more shot attempts than Tyrese Halliburton took. And I think that is a big problem right there. And I'm not even saying Halliburton has to be shooting the ball as much as Brunson, but the inability to get Halliburton really involved at all in this game, it was a Pacer problem, but it was also a Tyrese problem. Tyrese the last 3
It
games
was.
has looked great. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, looking for a shot, really getting this team going. JJ Redick said it after the Pacers won game 4. He basically said, when Tyrese is going like this team looks totally different. When he scored first, it's what this team needs. And this game tonight, they put Deuce McBride on him. Deuce McBride was harassing him, really getting up in his grill, but the Pacers allowed Deuce McBride to take Tyrese Halliburton out of the game, and Tyrese allowed Deuce McBride to take him out of the game. And I thought, what a terrible decision. If you want to let a guy like Deuce McBride overplay you and probably foul you for the majority of the time he's guarding you, that's sad. Go get the ball and draw some contact, draw some fouls, and do something about it. Don't just sit there and watch. You talked about this team not getting off the bus. Tyrese Halliburton, he's got to be the leader once again for not getting off the bus and really delivering when he needed to because 13 points, half that was in garbage time.
it was. I mean, he didn't score in the third quarter until there was like about 2 minutes left, and it was like, two fast break possessions back to back where he was able to get some easy baskets. I think in the fourth he might have had, one basket. It was just the shot attempts were not there. The first quarter, just 2 attempts. We saw Tyrese in other games come out with a different sense of urgency. Yeah, Deuce McBride definitely played great defense. Tibbs is a madman. It was an awesome adjustment for the Knicks to be able to put Deuce in that starting lineup. But Tyrese just can't let that just completely throw him off. It feels like when Tyrese makes these adjustments, it's not in game, it's the next game. And we don't have that type of luxury to be waiting for him to say, all right, I'm going to come out next game and be aggressive. We need him to come out the next quarter, the next, live ball and come out and be aggressive. And I just felt like, when you mentioned, yeah, Brunson, 35 shots, however you want to break up the math, it's about 4 times more than what Tyrese Halliburton put up. And Deuce was in foul trouble at this game. At one point,
Mm-hmm.
he had 4 fouls, midway through the third quarter or so, and Tibbs kept him in. And I felt like that should have been the time that maybe Halliburton is being aggressive and going at him, because at one point the Pacers did cut it down to single digits. But I felt that it needed to start with Tyrese Halliburton. He needed to be that guy that was going to come out guns blazing, start shooting, and we just did not see that in this game. And once again, it's tough to see the opposing team's point guard really be aggressive, get those shots up, pouring over 40. And our guy, who just been a little bit inconsistent, only giving us 13 because we know how good he is. But in order to make shots, you got to take shots. Tonight, he didn't take them.
Yeah, it was just a little bit surprising. I mean, I was expecting Tyrese to be much more aggressive. You know, you cannot wear a Reggie Miller shirt like that onto
Ooh,
the
yeah,
plane to go
true.
to New York and then not have and then show up like that. Like that is not Reggie Miller-esque. Reggie Miller would take 20 shots and beat 4 of 20 before he allows a guy
I'd
that's
respect it more than
I would have too. I mean, and I'm not saying Tyrese needs a force, but like Tyrese can do more than what he was doing in this game, and I think that's
yes.
just the bottom line. And I'll just say this: Jalen Brunson, 35 shot attempts, 44 points. There's been a lot of talk when the Knicks were losing about how his foot looked really bad. I didn't hear any talk about his foot tonight.
At
His foot
all.
didn't look bad at all, did it?
Nope. Looked pretty healthy to me. So, I don't think it was a dangerous foul that Neesmith had when he, I don't know where he was supposed to go, if he's
Good
supposed to
Lord.
jump backwards or not. Turns out Brunson's just fine. And Knicks fans all today, the excuse was, this is what I was hearing from people. If you don't beat us, this is going to be one of the most embarrassing series ever. It's like, this is a Pacers team that barely even had playoff experience.
Mhm.
So it's not like that. But anyway, regardless, I think that one of the big things that really set the tone was you saw the Knicks just flat out wanted it
Oh yeah.
more. No doubt about it. Alex, at halftime, the Pacers almost had more turnovers than the amount of rebounds that they had. And in terms of just offensive rebounding, what I saw tonight, 20 offensive rebounds by the Knicks to just 5 by the Pacers. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein, 12 offensive rebounds himself. I just felt the Pacers' bigs were nowhere to be found, and those second chance points were backbreaking. It got the crowd going in the first half, and it really carried the Knicks throughout this whole game.
Yeah, I mean, the Knicks had 16 more made field goals in this game, but they had 29 more field goal attempts. They had 101 field goal attempts to the Pacers,
That's
72, and
scary.
that is all about the rebounds. The Pacers got a rebound of 53 to 29 in this game. They just got dominated on the glass, and that is more. There's two reasons why. One, because Brunson was getting off, so the defense had to start double teaming, scrambling a little bit more, and it got the Pacers defense in scramble mode, which we've seen when that happens before. If they're not paying attention to detail, it just is a spiral down effect of them just not rebounding the basketball. But a lot of it's just effort. And once again, Isaiah Hartenstein, just the will to go get the basketball whenever he wanted it. We've seen Josh Hart be relentless on attacking the glass. Well, Isaiah Hartenstein honestly looked 2 steps faster than Miles Turner every time tonight.
Mhm.
And there was times when Turner was kind of recovering after the initial hedge and the semi trap the Pacers were doing on Brunson. Nothing was working at all, obviously,
No.
but it was just the lack of consistency on the glass. It's like you see this team is pounding you from the beginning of the first 5-6 minutes, even when you're up, they were dominating glass, and the Pacers never adjusted. They were never able to match any energy that New York had on the glass, and you know every single game in this series, the team that wins the rebounding battle has won the game. So that just kind of shows New York, they knew they had to be aggressive on the glass, and unfortunately, Indiana, they didn't put up any fight to really compete with New York in the rebounding category.
No, they didn't. And Hartenstein had about 7 offensive rebounds in the first quarter. And I felt that even when the Pacers had things going well, it was those offensive rebounds that really did keep the Knicks in the game. And I just felt like you knew right then and there, it was just getting the crowd on their feet. They were getting amped, and the Knicks thrive off that. And I think that the Pacers don't respond well to that. I truthfully believe that a rowdy crowd like this does get to Tyrese Halliburton, and that's something that he does need to get over, because at times he looked very passive. He would bring the ball up, and it felt like he couldn't wait. He couldn't get rid of it sooner to give it to Andrew Nemhard or just kind of pass it off. And that's just not the Tyrese Halliburton that this team needs in order to be successful. And then as it relates to going back to Brunson, I just felt that there was no one that could guard Jalen Brunson tonight. But I thought Andrew Nemhard had his struggles, and I think that in that second quarter, Brunson dropped 18 in the second quarter, and that was really where the Knicks
Mm.
really took that lead from being up 6 after the first to then having it extend to 15. And I just felt like from there, Brunson already had 28 at halftime. So I felt that
Mm.
that really set the tone while Indiana just really didn't have anything going on offense. I mean, there's plenty of different avenues that we could go over here, but I just
Let's stay
felt
on the
that
Brunson thing real quick
okay,
because,
let's do
you
it.
know, I get it. Everybody gets it. It's not a good matchup for Nimhard. Everybody's saying it. It's not a surprise. You can see it on the film. You can see it during the game. It's a little bit surprising that Carlisle continues to go to that matchup, especially leaving Nimhard on Brunson by himself. But Ben Shepard's not going to be able to guard him. Everybody thinks TJ McConnell can guard him. TJ McConnell cannot guard Jalen Brunson. We saw tonight multiple times where Brunson was not affected by McConnell. Really, the only option I think Indiana really has is Aaron Nesmith. The
Yes,
Pacers were trying to keep him from getting in foul trouble because he picked up one relatively early. So they pulled him away not to get that second and third one really quick. He ended up getting a third foul really quick that was overturned, thankfully. But
justice.
you kind of have to be careful here. And I think they were trying to save him for the second half, which was smart because he only had two fouls going to the second half. But I think at some point, maybe you try Pascal on Brunson just a little bit, see if the size can affect him. I know that he's not going to be able to stay with him speed wise, but I think Nimhard could probably do a better job off ball guarding Precious Achua because he's not an offensive threat. He's going to rebound, but I think Nimhard's not afraid to bang with him. So I would take that because there's times Siakam just kind of gets lost on the rebounding as well. Or Josh Hart. I mean, Nimhard can guard Josh
Not
Hart.
Tim
So
Harkin guard Josh.
yeah, so I just think if you've got that situation, yeah, you want to trust Nimhard. I get it. He just hasn't been able to put anything together that's bothered Jalen Brunson in this series. So instead of going back to the well that's not working for you, try something different or do a better job double teaming to get the ball out of his hands and make somebody else beat you. I thought they did that a few times, but then they close out way too hard on Achua when he has the ball at the free throw line. Let him shoot that ball. I don't care if he makes that. He's not going to make very many of those. Instead, they'd close out hard on him, and then there'd be wide open guys for three or cuts to the lane. And just, yeah, if you're going to play that kind of style of defense with Achua in the game, make Achua be a scorer. He's not going to be the one looking to score the basketball. So that's what I would do if I'm Indiana. Try Siakam a little bit, maybe on him, just to throw some size on him. Or if you're going to double team, leave Achua open and don't overreact to him getting the ball in the middle of the court.
Yeah, you definitely leave Achua open. I think that if he's anywhere outside the paint, I'm not worried. Look, you've had some good calls, so far in the series, so it'd be interesting to see. Brunson obviously very quick, so could be tough for Siakam, but Pacers definitely do need to roll out some different type of coverages. But TNT put this graphic out probably about in the first quarter or so. It was Jalen Brunson versus primary defenders. At the time of the graphic in the first quarter, um, against Andrew Nemhard, Jalen Brunson was 14 of 21, good for 67%. Against Aaron Nesmith, 11 of 28. So that's 39% from the field. Against McConnell, 3 of 11. Obviously, those numbers are not up to date because Brunson ended up going off, but it just showed that midway into the first quarter or so, maybe early second quarter, the fact that Brunson was shooting almost 70% against Andrew Nemhard just shows that it did not and has not worked. So you do need to try something different. And I feel like we saw Tibbs try something different with Deuce. We saw Alec Burks has played a lot more and has made an impact in each of the last few games. The Knicks have made the adjustments. The Pacers, I thought they made a great adjustment with Nesmith guarding Brunson for the last few games, but New York, I think, has started to figure that out a little bit. Brunson's a very good player to the point where he's going to get going eventually, but giving up 44 points to him is just unacceptable on a night where you did do a bunch of things right. Like, for instance, Dante DiVincenzo is someone that I think that they've really shut down. Josh Hart ended up with 18 and 11. It's tough to see him really get back and going, but I do think that Deuce has kind of really stepped forward lately, and now it's like the Pacers need to make those next level adjustments because the Knicks are finding production from players that were not productive early on in the series.
Yeah, I mean, you can't let Alec Burks get hot like he's been getting. Like It's ridiculous. I mean, I wasn't surprised by Miles McBride or Deuce McBride having a good game. He's kind of due for one. They've had a really good record when he's been with that lineup that they've had out there with him instead of Achua. They're a little bit faster, more shooting, more scoring, makes it harder to guard for Indiana defensively instead of leaving Achua out there because, I just think Achua is just a non-threat offensively, so you can't have to worry about that. Yeah, he's effective on the glass, but I thought Tibbs did a really good job adjusting that, having Achua come in for Hartenstein, then playing them a little bit more together when it was the Siakam Toppin minutes out there or Isaiah Jackson Siakam minutes out there together. I thought that was a smart decision to kind of go smaller there and make Indiana have to defend a little bit better on the perimeter because of one thing we saw a lot in games 3 and games 4 was the way they used Siakam on Achua. They let him kind of hang around the nail there and take away some of that stuff that the Knicks had. So that to me, it was a good adjustment by Thibodeau, but I think the Pacers are going to come back with adjustments of their own in game 6.
Absolutely.
And the bench is going to play better at home. We
They
saw it in
got it.
game 4 after a bad game in game 3. I think they're going to come out and play much, much better. It's kind of crazy how similar these two games were for both teams. Indiana on the better side in game 4, New York on the better side in game 5. The score was almost identical, Flachi. Indiana
Yeah,
won 121 to 89. New
it
York
is.
won
I
121 to
agree.
91. 121 has been scored 4 different times in this
That's
series out of
interesting.
5 games. It's pretty wild just to think about. But anyway, I'm just gonna say this. I had a feeling the Knicks were going to blow out the Pacers in this game. I said it's going to either be a blowout by New York or a very, very close game. I did not feel good about Indiana winning game 5. I really didn't. I just felt like the way Indiana took care of business at home, you knew New York was going to respond. They're too good of a team. I don't care how many guys they're down. They're just too good of a team. That crowd is too good. And it's hard to beat a team 4 games in a row. We've talked about that. So
It is.
Indiana can win game 6, go back to the Garden. It's a pick 'em game for game 7. There's a lot of pressure on New York. There's hardly probably any pressure on Indiana to win it because nobody expects them to win it. Kevin O'Connor is already throwing a ton of, crap at Halliburton for another lackadaisical game in game 5. He did the same thing after game 1. Hardly saw him give him any praise after games 2, 3, and
Nope.
4. But that's what Kevin O'Connor does sometimes. He finds guys that he wants to pick on and just waits for that to happen. So I'm not going to entertain that energy on Twitter. Just ignore it. Halliburton had a bad game. I get it. It is what it is. Halliburton has to be much, much better. But just the national. I told you this. I think maybe I told Schultz this, but after game 1, I said if Halliburton plays bad in the playoffs or has these games where he doesn't show up, national media is going to kill him.
Oh yeah,
And I think he's going to respond because he listens to everything
he
everybody
does.
says. So it's just going to be extra motivation for Tyrese.
This is growing pains right now. It really is. You're watching a player who is, on his way to being a star in this league. Some could say he already is a star. You can go either way. Still very young. You need to have these type of growing pains in moments where he has not produced on the road. I thought in game 2 he was obviously better, but game 1 was an absolute dud. Game 5 was an absolute dud. He will respond. He will get better. It's happening. We saw him have really good performances in game 3 and game 4. And I do think that he will have a really good performance in game 6. It will be tough knowing that Deuce is going to be all over him. And that's just a different wrinkle that the Knicks weren't rolling out earlier on the series. But I want the Pacers to do one of those like mental warfare games where like they pack their bags for New York. Like, they pack the bags and they have the plane ready because they're like, that's what we're doing. We're going to win game 6 and we're going to New York. You have to have that type of mentality because right now we're all having a blast. I know not right in this exact moment, but we don't want this run to end. And we think that we will continue to defend home court. It's what the Pacers have done. They're a different team in front of that home crowd. That bench was out of this world in game 4. Tonight, nobody showed up. I felt that McConnell, he got in the game. He scored a basket real quick, and I thought, okay, here we go. We're off and running. But McConnell and Obi Toppin just did not have that type of impact tonight. They actually had Tyrese Halliburton had the second worst plus minus of minus 22.
Obi was the
Obi
worst.
Toppin had the worst at minus 25, and then there was TJ McConnell at minus 19. And, it just didn't work out tonight. It was not our night. You made the point. You're right. This felt like our version on the flip side of what just happened in game 4. It was a blowout. It was
Yeah.
not our night. It's not an excuse. You need to be better from the top of your roster down, because I just feel like right now there was one moment where the Pacers, Miles Turner hit 3 threes in a
Yeah.
row. Now a quick 9 points, cut that deficit to 7. I went, oh man, we got a game right now. What did the Pacers do? They let up a 25-0 run to the New York Knicks. That can't
Yeah.
happen.
No, it can't. They went almost 7 minutes without a made field goal. And it was just stupid play after that because it was the Knicks scored. Nimhard pushes the ball up the court. He gets fouled. He goes 1-2 from the free throw line. It's an 8-point game. The Pacers get a stop. Siakam misses a, you know, semi-contested layup. The Knicks go down and score, get the lead back up to 10. I think Nimhard takes another. I think he took a quick shot in the shot clock. It was about an 18-footer. Didn't really like it. Felt like it was not a great offensive possession with how things have been rolling for them. So felt like it was a little bit rushed. And then he had a terrible pass to Turner in the post. Turner had the mismatch. He's posting up asking for it. Nimhard kind of goes away from that, and then Turner gets out of position. He throws it back to him. Now Turner tries to create something. Turner's not a great guy with the ball, with his back to the basket in the post. He puts the ball on the ground, gets stolen from him immediately. Very next play, the Knicks go down and score again. And then the very next play, the Pacers get called for a palming call on Pascal Siakam for carrying the basketball, which you really never see. I mean, I saw Rick Carlisle be like, come on, James. That's the official that called that there. So it was just like a spiral effect of just terrible turnovers, bad play. And the Knicks got hot. McBride hit a three, Brunson hit a three, and the lead all of a sudden was back up to like 13, 16 points again. So Indiana just never was able to really get their foot going offensively. And I think you got to give the Knicks credit for their defense
Definitely.
because they were making Indiana go late into the shot clock for a lot of these shots. And Indiana did a really bad job executing any productive offense. I know they like to play random offense, and at times it works. But I will say this as we kind of transition talking about Pascal Siakam. I just felt like the Pacers did not do a good enough job of getting Siakam the basketball where he can thrive. They did it a few times here and there. Mostly, I feel like in the second quarter, maybe into the first a little bit when he came back in. But they need to do a better job of getting him the ball where he can get it and score. Like, yeah, he's really improved on his corner 3-point shot. He did hit a elbow three tonight. But when he's got a mismatch like a Josh Hart on him, you need to get him the ball in the post. I don't know how many times we have to talk about this, but I don't really remember any time they went to him in the post with Josh Hart on him. They've got to attack that more. I think that Siakam is too good of a scorer down low to go away from that and just say, okay, let's play our random basketball and let McConnell and Nimhard, you know, take all these ridiculous shots or set the offense up and not getting great spots. And then, you're not getting Siakam where he can really thrive and be more effective in this series.
I said it last episode. Josh Hart cannot guard him. Cannot. You need to get him the ball where he can thrive. I hate seeing Siakam always having the ball right around the 3-point line. It's just he's not being set up to succeed. And I just
Mhm.
feel that the Pacers, yeah, they got to do something with it, because I feel like they're not utilizing him to his max potential right now, which has everybody. You had a good tweet clapping back at him. Everybody's saying that's not a max player. You can't do this. And it's like, guys, I'm telling you right now, Pascal Siakam is the best that the Pacers have to offer as it relates to, you know, a really good option next to Tyrese Halliburton. And whether you want to say an all-star option or anything of that sort, those type of guys, they're not just growing on trees and are available. Pascal Siakam is a very good player. I think on a night like tonight, you could point the finger at every single player on this roster. This is not a Pascal Siakam problem. Yes, the Pacers bigs, they got ate alive by, I felt like the Knicks on the glass. That's definitely a real thing. But Siakam's had really good games in this playoffs. I think he could very well have another really good game in game 6, and that whole narrative could change. But it's easy to feel that the sky is falling right now. But I could promise you that's not what it felt like just about 48 hours ago when everything went our way. The Pacers hit the toughest shots. The Knicks couldn't buy a basket. This is just sometimes how it goes. And tonight, I just felt like it just simply was not the Pacers' night.
So the Pacers lost by 30 points tonight, Facci, right?
Yep.
Pascal Siakam led the team with 22 points. He played 33 minutes. What was his plus minus? Please tell everybody.
He was a -2, which
Thank
is
you.
I would actually say is actually the best on the team for anybody that played real minutes. We're not going to count James Johnson +1.
Right. And that's what I'm getting at here. In 33 minutes, the Pacers only got outscored by 2 points with Siakam on the floor. And
Yep.
the other 15, they got outscored by what? 28 points.
Yeah.
Okay? So you want to sit here and say, "Oh, he missed the box out. He's not a max player." These takes are ridiculous. I've had enough of them. I see them after every single game. I've not wanted to entertain it because it's the dumbest thing I've seen. Pascal Siakam is the only reason Indiana is even where they're at in a game 6 of the second round of the playoffs. It's easy to criticize, but you got to think he's been here for 41 regular season games and 2 playoff series, and he played how many games healthy with Tyrese Halliburton? Maybe none
Enough.
yet because we haven't really seen Tyrese fully healthy until the playoffs, maybe. So I think people just need to relax a little bit. This team is way ahead of schedule for where they're supposed to be at. Nobody is picking this team over the Bucks if they have a healthy Giannis in the series. And who's going to guard Giannis in that series? You're going to put Obi Toppin on him? You're going to put Jarris Walker on him? No, you're going to put Pascal Siakam on him because he's 30 years old and he is an all-star level player. No, he's not perfect. Is he worth a max extension? You know what? For what the Pacers are going to get with this small market and who they attract free agent wise, you're not
Yep.
going to find a better person to spend the max on than Pascal Siakam. And it doesn't mean he has to play the entirety of the max contract here in Indiana. You can trade him after 2 years if he's starting to fall or take a bit of a step back. But for right now, these hot takes about Pascal Siakam are ludicrous. I'm sorry, but Pacer fans, if you're freaking out about extending Siakam, let him walk. Let him walk in free agency. What are you going to do with that money? What are you going to do? You're going to re-sign Obi Toppin? You think
That's what
Obi
it would
Toppin's
be.
the answer? Come on, give me a break.
It would be Obi Toppin and some other role player. And I'm telling you right now, if you're thinking that Josh Walker is just going to step in and all of a sudden be anything even close, you're wrong. I mean, we saw Josh Walker come in there tonight, and like I know it's garbage time, but it's just he was just kind of bricking up some shots, and he's not fully ready. I look forward to having him take a step forward, next season. But Pascal Siakam, this is when you trade 3 first-round picks, you're signing this man. And I just feel that right now, the Pacers, you guys got to remember it because I think everybody thinks that maybe this playoff series is going to change things for the outlook. Players haven't come here in the offseason. You got a guy that wants to be here. Ink him up long term. Like you said, you could always make a trade at any point. But for right now, if you can run it back with this group and, internally have some growth from young players, you have something going on right now. If the Pacers still win this series and we lose in the conference finals to Boston, are people still going to say, I don't know if you re-sign Siakam? It's just like, guys, what do you want? Who do we think we are? We're
Yeah,
we're, we're 2 wins away from the Eastern Conference Finals in a year where coming into it, we said if we could make a playoff appearance, that was considered a successful
exactly.
season. We're 2 wins away from the conference finals. Let's take it down a notch and realize we got something special going on for potentially years to come.
It's year one really of dealing with success. Okay.
Yep.
And everybody is like, oh, if we don't win a championship, it's championship or bust. No, listen, this team is not a
Crazy.
championship level team. Nobody thought that. We were just hoping they'd be competitive in round one of the playoffs against the Bucks. We thought there was a chance they could beat them because of their injuries and stuff like that. And then against New York, I don't know if Facci ever gave a prediction, but I didn't anticipate Indiana beating New York coming into this
I didn't want
series.
to say it. I never believed in a series win. I really didn't. And look,
No,
that was obviously when OG was healthy, and you
true.
still had Mitchell Robinson out there. Well, whatever. Not like Mitchell Robinson was going to be the biggest difference maker, but a healthier Knicks team, I was like, yeah, it probably is Knicks in 6, but I feel like it'll be a competitive series. Like once OG went down, all of a sudden anything could change, and,
Right.
and everything did change. And right now, we have a great series on our hands. And I know I'm going in a little bit of a different direction, but the banter that's been going on between Pacers and Knicks fans means that this rivalry means something to them again.
Yep.
Like in the first 2 games, they looked past us. You're not even on our level, blah, blah, blah. We're on a Boston. No, no, no. Once like things changed and it went 2-2, all of a sudden Knicks fans hated Pacer fans, just like the way that Pacer fans hated Knicks fans in the past. And then tonight, you saw it was chippy. It was chippy. You had Isaiah Jackson, kind of getting into it with Hartenstein and Alec Burks getting in there a little bit. And then all of a sudden, later on, you had DiVincenzo and Miles Turner. This is what a rivalry is. We got a great series on our hands right now. I don't think this one's ending in 6, and I'm happy that this rivalry has absolutely been renewed for both fan bases.
No, it's great. I mean, it's fun. It's what it's all about. It's what basketball is all about. And if you're getting all caught up in the conversations with Knicks fans and it's making you lose sleep at night, then maybe just back off of social media. But if you're like me, just tweet things out, put it on mute, and don't even look at the responses because it's not worth your time. But I'll just say this: I thought the Isaiah Jackson hard foul on DiVincenzo was great. I didn't tweet that it was a great foul, but I actually like that he sent a hard screen
Yeah.
because DiVincenzo, everybody wants to complain about Indiana being front runners, being, cheering when they're up because Bobby Portis said, "Oh, they're a bunch of front runners." Like just the stupidest comment I've ever heard in my life.
Everybody's
How many
ran with it.
times do you see guys celebrate when they're winning in a game? It's just
Who
stupid.
does that though?
Everybody does.
That's like a, I don't want to say like a Lance Stevenson thing, but like you don't want to be down 25 like showboating. That's like that's when it pretty much is like, all right, get that guy off the court. What is he doing? Like
Yeah.
nobody does that.
Yeah, so I mean, you know what? Like, DiVincenzo's not been good the last 2 games whatsoever. He's been running his mouth the entirety of the series, and he's had some good moments. I'm giving him credit for what he did in Game 3, like just unbelievable. Games 1 and 2, he was really awesome as well.
Yep.
But I love the hard foul. I like that Hartenstein stood up for his player, gets in Jackson's face. Jackson doesn't back down. Alec Burks puts his hands on his neck. I don't have a problem with that. That's what playoff basketball is all about.
Mhm.
We like the physicality, but I like that Isaiah Jackson wasn't afraid to get physical there on a screen with how lackluster the physicality was for Indiana. I just wish that he would have applied that a little bit more to rebounding,
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, Foch, where this game was lost by a couple of different things. It was mostly the energy from New York, the rebounding,
Yeah.
and Jalen Brunson. Those were the 3 things. And then if you want to flip it on the Pacer side, Halliburton didn't show up. The bench wasn't nearly as good as they were. And, I've seen Obi Toppin Muse a lot, tweeting at us, tagging me all the time. Pacers are better when Obi's in the game. Pacers this, Pacers that. I looked up what his plus minus is for the playoffs. He is in the negative. You add this game to it, it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, this is minus
Ben
25 for
Shepard
me.
has the best net rating going into
Yeah,
tonight's game. I tweeted that out.
that was interesting.
So I'm just saying, I think there was like TJ McConnell. Like I think Obi Toppin was like 8th or ninth and plus minus throughout the series, and he's been like a negative -0.5. Like it wasn't much, but like add this game, which he was the worst. I think he was a negative. Was it 22, 25, something like that tonight?
Obi was minus 25
Yeah,
tonight.
minus 25 tonight. So just kind of shows you, right, that Obi Toppin's a very good player at home. Obi Toppin on the road is not the same level of impact player that he's shown that he can be. And he was not good in Game 3 at home. Was good on the road, really in Games 1 and Games 2 for Indiana. But excuse me, it's just one of those things where it's like he's a good role player, but he's not
Yeah.
consistent enough to be getting starter level minutes. And so I close with this. I went on my Siakam rant. Everybody's going to throw back OG Anunoby and Paul George. They should go out and get. If it were that easy, they'd go out and do it. OG Anunoby is not going to leave New York. Number
No.
one. Number two, let's say he did and came to Indiana. Yeah, it might make them more versatile, but is he going to play more than 50 games? Is he going to be healthy in the playoffs? Probably not. Paul George is 35 next year. Is that someone you want to give a 4-year deal to? No. He'll be 39 by the end of it. He's on the downward spiral. Siakam just turned 30, okay? If you give him a 4-year max deal, whatever, he's 34 by the end of it. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the Halliburton window if you assign Siakam to an extension. Just relax, quit overreacting. It's a bit over the top.
It is. Look, I think we need to just take this game, just crumple it up, forget about it, move on, know that, hey, we're a different team at home until someone can come in a game bridge and beat us. I ain't thinking otherwise, so it's just like, this is what it is. Let's handle business at home. This Pacers team and the Knicks team, they get a couple days rest now. This is the longest rest that they have had in quite some time, not playing until Friday night. I think that rest, you could make an argument, could benefit the Knicks. They're probably a little bit more banged up, but I think it's going to help both teams. It's also going to help Indiana make some adjustments, have Halliburton be able to get his head right. And honestly, I mean, look, you needed to win Game 4 no matter what. I think the Knicks probably not playing their starters in that full fourth quarter, much of the second half, probably did help them out a little bit in terms of, getting some rest and coming out fired up and ready. But hey, that's just how the cookie crumbled. I'm ready to move on from this and just be able to say, hey, game six, they better book that flight, pack that bag for New York, and have that mentality that this thing's going seven.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't step on that court, because the way the Knicks stepped on that court tonight, they meant business, and those lights just seemed a little bit blinding for the Pacers tonight.
Yeah, this team's been resilient all year long. Indiana, they don't get beat a
Bounce
lot
back.
like this.
Hmm.
So I think they're going to come back. They're going to play a really good game six. They could lose game six. They definitely could. But I think the effort's going to be much much better. And if it's a loss, it'll be a close loss. So I just think Indiana, they got to show up. They got to realize, like, yeah, I get it. New York's not the same team that they were at the beginning of the season, but that you can't worry about that. You're playing who's out there now. Jalen Brunson has been, finished top 5 in MVP voting. He's been phenomenal this year. And if you say, "Oh, I can't find anybody to guard him," that's on the Pacers. No, it's just give the man his credit. He is a very talented player, and he's playing out of this world. It's just you cannot let the others impact the game as much as they did, and I don't think they will on the road as much as they will at home. And I think game sevens are going to be different because everybody at that point, more and more pressure's on you because you're facing elimination. And we've always seen this when the team that is facing elimination has their back against the wall, they usually play harder. So I'm expecting Indiana to come out in game six and win the game. I think it's going to be close, but I think they're going to pull a close one out. They're going to go back to New York for game seven. And I think really it could be anybody's game. I picked the Knicks in seven, but it's going to be anybody's game. I think it could be a fun one if Indiana shows up like they know how to show up. But um, I'm sorry for my voice, everybody. It's been really raspy tonight. Been dealing with this stupid chest cold for almost a week and a half. I don't feel bad. It just sounds really bad. So it's just annoying. Hopefully by Friday, Fachi, the Pacers are winning and I'm getting over this.
Hey, second round of the playoffs. We're all dealing with something right now. No excuse. We just got to get the job done. The last thing I'll say is the 91 points by the Pacers. I believe that's actually the lowest they've scored all season.
All
Um,
season. Okay.
yeah, all season. So just a bad performance overall. One that they will respond from. They will like you said, it will at minimum be a close game, but I think Indiana will take the next game. I think that the bench played probably as bad as they could possibly play. And the game before that, they played as good as they could possibly play. You get
Mhm.
a middle of the road performance from the bench. All right, great. I think things are going to be all right. Halliburton will respond. He's going to hear ears full. It's all people are going to be talking about for the next few days of how he was a no-show, a ghost, whatever you want to call it. That's what he was tonight. So I think that he's going to take that personally. And I think that for the Knicks, sometimes, maybe I'm sure they heard the noise, but I think the Pacers have always been a team that is better when they're the underdogs that are being counted out. This team does not do well with the all of a sudden they were favored to win this series from Vegas.
Mhm.
I thought that was interesting. Everyone, you know how it goes. Everyone starts talking about the Pacers, and that is exactly when they have a letdown. And I think it unfortunately happened, but I'm looking forward to a response.
I'm sure all the guys are going to hear all the criticism tomorrow, and it's going to be 3 days break, right? Or Wednesday, Thursday, then they play
Yeah.
Friday. So, a longer turnaround here. So they're going to hear a lot of noise. But I think one thing that they're going to remember is all those Knicks fans chanting Knicks and six at the end of
Mhm.
that game. So, you know, be careful what you wish for, Knicks fans, because if the Pacers heard that and they take it personal, I think you'll see a much different team. But with that being said, Fachi, we'll be back. I think we're actually taking tomorrow off. So we're going to take a break on Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday for a game preview and then obviously Friday for a game recap of game six. But go ahead and let the people know where they can find us at on social.
Absolutely. So you can find us on Twitter at PacersPod, STP. You can find Alex on Twitter at Alex Golden NBA. I can be found on Twitter at _FACCI. You can find us on Instagram at PacersPod, STP. You can find us on Facebook at Setting the Pace. You can find us on TikTok, Setting the Pace. And Alex, tell them where they can check us out on YouTube.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to youtube.com/setting the pace, a Pacers podcast. We can find all of our video content. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. And please, if you're subscribed to the podcast on the audio platforms, leave us a 5-star rating and review, especially if you're loving the content and all the content we've been bringing to you. So, really appreciate all of your support. And I know this was a tough one. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear us talk about a loss, but I felt like we were pretty optimistic about this team being able to bounce back and get game six. So, let's hope for that, Fachi. So, with that being said, if you're hoping, Tyrese Halliburton, comes back to life and steps up, and the Pacers win game 6, then hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.